Hi, I'm Colby, a single dad trying my best to raise my awesome 12-year-old daughter, Emma. Before I continue, please like and subscribe. Life's been pretty intense lately, especially since we lost Mom 3 months ago. Emma and I were super close to her. She was more than just a grandmother to Emma. She was our rock, especially after Emma got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 7. Mom was always there for those late-night blood sugar checks and emergency hospital runs. "Daddy, I miss having tea parties with Grandma," Emma said yesterday, playing with her insulin pump while we looked through old photos. "Me too, kiddo. Remember how she'd always bring those special sugar-free cookies she made just for you? And she never forgot to count the carbs. And she never forgot to count the carbs for me. That's my girl, always thinking about her diabetes management." Mom made sure Emma would always be taken care of, which is why she left a substantial trust fund specifically for Emma's medical expenses. It should cover her insulin pumps and any future treatments she might need. "Your mother always played favorites, didn't she?" That's Aunt Patricia, Mom's sister, who's been showing up uninvited more often since the will reading. She wasn't too happy about Mom's decision. "Emma needs this money for her health, Patricia. It's not about playing favorites." "Oh please, that pump thing is just dramatic. When I was young, we didn't have all these fancy devices." I caught Emma's worried look. She's heard this kind of talk before from people who don't understand type 1 diabetes, but hearing it from family hits different. "The insulin pump keeps me alive, Aunt Patricia. My pancreas doesn't work." "Sweetie, have you tried those herbal supplements I mentioned? Much more natural than being hooked up to a machine." Red flags were going off in my head. Patricia's been making these comments more frequently, leaving articles about reversing diabetes naturally on our front door. Emma's medical care isn't up for discussion. Her endocrinologist, Dr. Chen, has her on an excellent management plan. Well, maybe if you spent more time exploring alternatives instead of relying on that trust fund. Today, Patricia caught me as I was heading to work. "You know, Colby, I could watch Emma after school. Give you a break from all this medical stuff." Something in her tone made my skin crawl, but before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Work emergency. Patricia's offer hung in the air, her eyes fixed on Emma's insulin pump like it personally offended her. "I'll think about it," I said, already knowing my answer would be a hard no. But something told me Patricia wasn't going to let this go easily. I was in the middle of a client meeting when my phone started buzzing. 3 missed calls from Lisa, Emma's school nurse. My stomach dropped as I stepped out to return the call. "Mr. Harris, Emma's blood sugar readings are concerning. She left with your aunt, but I wanted to double check. Her levels were stable at lunch, then started dropping rapidly." I never authorized Patricia to pick up Emma. She had a signed note, said you were stuck at work. My hands were shaking as I dialed Patricia's number, straight to voicemail. I jumped in my car, already calling Detective Torres, an old friend from college. "Meet me at 1242 Oak Street. Something's wrong." Patricia's house was dark when I arrived. The front door was unlocked. "Emma, baby, where are you?" "Daddy," her voice was weak, coming from the kitchen. I found her slumped against the refrigerator, her insulin pump nowhere in sight. "What did she do to you?" "Said I needed natural healing. Took my pump. Said Grandma would have wanted." I was already calling 911 while checking her blood sugar. The reading was dangerously high. "Where's Patricia?" "Store. Getting herbs." Detective Torres arrived as the ambulance pulled up. EMTs rushed in with their equipment. "Her blood sugar's 487, one called out." ketones present, possible DKA. Dr. Chen was waiting at the ER when we arrived. Get me an insulin drip and fluids now. The pump? She asked while working. My aunt, she removed it. Said Emma needed to be free from artificial devices. That's attempted murder. We're documenting everything. Patricia burst into the ER, clutching a bag of supplements. You're poisoning her with all these chemicals. My sister wouldn't have wanted. Your sister left specific instructions for Emma's medical care, I snarled. You forged my signature to pick her up. She doesn't need that trust fund for fake treatments. If you just listen. Detective Torres stepped forward. Ma'am, step outside. This is medical abuse. Patricia shouted I was helping her. All these doctors are just after the inheritance money. Get her out of here, Dr. Chen ordered, focusing on Emma's vitals. Blood sugar starting to respond to treatment. I held Emma's hand while nurses documented the angry red insertion site where Patricia had ripped out her pump. Emma's eyes were glassy with tears. I was so scared, Daddy, she said. Grandma sent her messages. Said I needed to be fixed. I've got all her social media posts about curing Emma, Torres said quietly, plus the school pickup blogs, forged note, and medical evidence. We're building a solid case. Emma's vitals finally stabilized, but she flinched at every sound, every time the door opened. My baby girl, who'd been confidently managing her diabetes for years, now looked broken. Patricia hadn't just attacked her body. She shattered her spirit. She'd shattered her sense of safety. The hospital security footage showed Patricia trying to access Emma's room 3 more times that night. Each time Dr. Chen's orders stopped her. I hadn't slept, watching Emma's every breath while Detective Torres gathered evidence. We pulled the school's security footage. Watch this. The video showed Patricia walking into the school office that morning, rehearsed speech ready. She told Lisa, "You had a family emergency," Torres explained. She asked detailed questions about Emma's medical routine. Lisa, the school nurse, sat with us to give her statement. She wanted to know when Emma typically checks her blood sugar, what symptoms to watch for. I thought she was being thorough. You couldn't have known, I assured her. She spent 20 minutes asking about the inheritance too, whether the school had copies of Emma's medical trust documents. Dr. Chen joined us with a stack of medical reports. I've documented everything. The trauma to the insertion site shows deliberate force. Emma's blood work reveals she was without insulin for hours. In a type 1 diabetic, that's like withholding oxygen. The social media evidence is damning, Torres added, pulling up screenshots. Look at these posts from Patricia's accounts. The posts made me sick. Weeks of rants about big pharma and fake illnesses for profit. Pictures of herbal supplements she'd been stockpiling. Comments about saving Emma from medical slavery. There's more, James, our family lawyer, said, walking in with his own files. Patricia tried contesting the will 3 times in the past month. Claimed your mother was manipulated into creating the medical trust. She was lucid and very clear about her wishes, I said. She knew Emma's life depended on proper medical care. We found this in Patricia's house, Torres said, sliding over a notebook. Pages of calculations about Emma's inheritance. Notes about alternative treatments and curing the dependency. She planned this, Dr. Chen said, reviewing the notebook. These dates. She was tracking Emma's medical appointments, learning her routine. James looked grim. The premeditation makes this attempted murder, not just endangerment. A commotion in the hallway drew our attention. Patricia was trying to deliver more supplements to Emma's room. The doctors are killing her with chemicals. I have to save her. My sister wants me to save her. Torres nodded to the officer standing by. Patricia Matthews, you're under arrest for attempted murder, child endangerment, and forgery. You don't understand. The inheritance is corrupting her, making her dependent. They led her away in handcuffs, still ranting about natural healing and her sister's wishes. Hospital staff watched in silence as she passed. We'll need Emma's statement, Torres said quietly, when she's stronger. I looked through the window at my daughter, finally sleeping peacefully. The new insulin pump Dr. Chen provided was safely delivering her medication. She just tried to murder my little girl for money. We're going to make sure she pays for it, Torres promised, closing his evidence folder. Every second of it. The courtroom fell silent as Emma's hospital photos appeared on the screen. Her medical records, the ripped-out insulin pump, the forged school note. Each piece of evidence hit like a hammer. Patricia sat there in her designer suit, still trying to look like the concerned aunt. I was trying to help her. My sister wouldn't have wanted her grandchild dependent on machines. The prosecutor played Patricia's jail phone calls. Her voice filled the courtroom. Once the brat's off that fake medicine, the trust fund becomes contestable. Nobody needs that much money for a made-up disease. Dr. Chen's testimony was devastating. Without immediate intervention, Emma would have died within hours. Miss Matthews' actions show clear intent to cause harm. She's exaggerating for the money, Patricia interrupted. Everyone's after that inheritance. The judge wasn't having it. Miss Matthews, control yourself or you'll be removed. Lisa's testimony about Patricia's suspicious questions at school sealed it. James presented Patricia's repeated attempts to contest the will, showing her financial motives. Your Honor, my client acted out of genuine concern, Patricia's lawyer started. Genuine concern doesn't involve forging documents and ripping out medical devices, the prosecutor countered. The jury took just 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. The deliberate targeting of a child's life-sustaining medical treatment is particularly heinous, the judge declared. 20 years. No possibility of early release. Patricia screamed as they led her away. I was right. You'll see. She doesn't need that pump. The family fallout was nuclear. Patricia's enablers in the family suddenly couldn't distance themselves fast enough. Her social media followers abandoned her when the evidence went public. Her natural healing business collapsed overnight. Emma's recovery was slower. The trauma counseling helped, but it took months. Months before she'd let anyone except me or Dr. Chen adjust her pump. You know what's weird, Dad? Emma said one evening, checking her blood sugar. I'm not angry anymore. I just feel sorry for her. That's because you're stronger than she'll ever be. Grandma would be proud of us, right? So proud, kiddo. So proud. James called with final news. He'd secured Emma's medical trust with triple-locked protection. No one could ever contest it again. The diabetes support group organized a celebration when Emma felt ready to share her story. Other kids with type 1 hugged her, calling her their hero. Parents thanked her for exposing how dangerous medical misinformation could be. Your daughter changed things, Dr. Chen told me at Emma's next checkup. The hospital's implementing new security protocols. Schools are updating their pickup verification systems. Emma was back to confidently managing her diabetes, rocking her pump like the life-saving technology it was. She even started a blog about type 1 diabetes awareness. Sometimes at night I still check her pump, twice, 3 times, but when I see her thriving, advocating for herself and others, I know we won. Patricia didn't just lose her freedom. She lost any power to hurt my daughter ever again. The trust fund isn't just money anymore. It's a reminder that good people, like my mom, will always protect those they love, even after they're gone. What would you do if a family member endangered your child's life because they thought your inheritance money was making them dependent on medicine? Would you ever be able to forgive them, or do you agree with Colby that some betrayals can never be excused? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you'd like to hear more stories about standing up to toxic family members and getting justice, stay tuned.